My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. This is P.O.C. That is Frontier Airlines. This is Laurel Avenue, and this is G Street. You'll recall I'm here capturing video while the military stalks me by helicopter. That's the people of the state stalking in the path and maintaining presence with the method of light activity under the fake sun. That's how you know it's targeting, and it's stalking on the roads and the highways where they're pacing. At Reliable Properties, Richardson Peterson home, where the entities engage in what is stalking by the commercial airline companies. The fake sun is over me at Woodside Senior Apartments at 6:48 p.m. 9 LKN 526 is surrounded with evidence to prosecute them as a co-conspirator of murder, engaging in domestic terrorism, and it's the whole entity. I got one license plate, I have them all. The entire entity is engaged in gang stalking, targeting as a pattern at reliable properties by helicopter, stalking under the fake sun, which I have from sunrise. Remember the evidence at Support Professional Building, that's right here. The entity is engaged in this and takeoff. This is what the entity is engaged in. That's not a takeoff. They still have not engaged in a takeoff. That's a judicially noticed. It is also a judicially noticed fact that the fake sun is what is over me at the Upland Public Library and not the natural environment that would be over me at G Street and what is Laurel, okay? The fake sun is over me aboard Omnitrans. I have the evidence of the fake sun where Omnitrans even went out of its way to be in this parking lot during the 6 a.m. hour where they're all stalking 9RFS 840. So was Frontier Airlines, which is the airline industry, stalking. The airline industry is stalking with 6TLF 167, who's engaged in conspiring my murder. And you need to know that terrorists like David Siegler are going to federal prison for it. This is the absolute zero presence of any mental illness of any American citizen, let alone someone that's kidnapped by David Siegler in the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, while this entity is engaged in what is gang stalking, which is proven through the specific environment where these demons that like to stalk with impossible light and have a whole fake sun over an Upland Public Library that's competing with this crime scene right here, where there are no planes from the airport hovering over here. And there is no sun that will be on the same street from morning, afternoon, and evening, and that's what the totality of the evidence shows. This is the P.O.C. It's 4:51 p.m. Woodside Senior Apartments will not have a sun in the window of any apartment over there today at 6:48 p.m. And no sunlight is ever gonna flash on a living room wall while the demons cross path. They're engaged in what is demonic activity. And so are Ontario Police. 69632 handicap, gang stalker, so is the Ontario Police, the exact same criminal system. That's why they're being disbanded. This is the P.O.C. You recall the entity stalking while I'm at Pizza Hut in the middle of the afternoon. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon when the entity is doing a U-turn over this parking lot. And it's 4:52 p.m. Many angles of analysis. The entity has a fake sun over me in the morning at Laurel and what is F Street. The bus stop, which is along Euclid Avenue and F Street, sunrise, sunset. This is the P.O.C. Stalking under the fake sun, stalking by the airline industry in concert with the people. This is the P.O.C. I'm prosecuting reliable property. This is called relevant positioning. So if you thought that you're getting, even if I'm across the street from your property, everybody over there is gang stalking and reliable properties is gang stalking, and I'm going to prosecute you. You are a criminal. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. Ontario Police are stalking. This is in furtherance of murder and psychological torture. This is the department that's stalking with the demon-possessed, who are the people of the state and the airline industry. The entity engaged in what is stalking me at Woodside Senior Apartments also by helicopter. This is a threat, and this is the entity that's engaged in years of criminal defamation, okay? This is the department engaging in a pattern. 1675929, vehicle 1101, stalking with demons. This is pacing, 9NJJ962, they're mentally ill, and so is that one in that vehicle. They're going to prison. That's a male operating that Ontario Police vehicle, and this is prison while they're stalking with the police. 9YSW296, the entity stalked me by helicopter at the Raybon Mortgage, 507 North Euclid Avenue, where sun isn't going to sweep across the building while you're driving on the roads and the highways. That's what's happening inside of the living room at Woodside Senior Apartments. These are the stalkers, including Ontario Police, who are monitoring a woman in an apartment complex and an apartment building and in a bathroom. My genitalia, all of my privacy has been desecrated by the sex offenders and the stalkers, the demons of the Ontario Police, who are being disbanded because of the criminal activity that they share in with the people of the state. 9TLP273 is stalking and conspiring my murder because of the Ontario Police Department, who conspired to criminally defame me and kidnap me with David Siegler. He's going to prison. They committed kidnapping together as an entity. The same entity that engaged in what is kidnapping on July 13, 2026, pursuant to a warrant that you also don't have. You don't have any authority when you are stalking like the Ontario Police. Anthony Rodriguez, he's going to prison, and so is Hadel Shiapani. We already know that. She's kidnapping under the 10:30 a.m. fake sun, which is at OVITT Family Community Library, which wouldn't be in the same city off of the same block like it is. At 10:30, it's 4:59 p.m. This is the entity that is stalking, and you are stalking on the roads and the highways as an entity that's engaging in what is psychological torture, where you accuse the police of targeting, harassing you without any evidence, which the ordinary targeted individual that has, and that's where that department engages in what is criminal defamation. 9PNN670. The Ontario Police didn't even have that.
They engage in what is making up information while they're stalking in much more egregious manners, as I have maintained a record of it. And every single last one are going to prison, including stalking on the roads and the highways. They are in the environment where the impossible light is present, where the fake sun is maintained over me, and you are not engaging in law enforcement. You will be federally prosecuted. This is a completion of the criminal act. It is not a victimless crime. Gang stalking as a department and gang stalking as anyone a part of that department. And Lopez is going to prison for it as well. This is the P.O.C. What you hear is Bethel Congregation, where I'm present in the morning. So when the pastor Lee is maintaining the Bible study during the 10 a.m. hour, and I walk outside and you see that helicopter, that's during the 10 a.m. hour, and that's the same environment where the Ontario police are knowingly, intentionally, maliciously, and ceaselessly targeting me while they watch my evidence, and they continuously do so. That's why that demon's going to prison. This is the P.O.C. This is the prosecution of a department, not just that vagina monitor that is engaged in what is brazen criminal activity. This is P.O.C. It is currently 5 p.m. Alrighty, and here is the entity engaging in the same exact pattern of conduct. The gang members are around. This is the city hall where the fake Sons of member Securitas that's going to prison is here at sunrise, 6, 7 in the morning, where the entity is stalking under a fake sun that followed from Woodside Senior Apartments that is right here over me at 5:15 p.m. and somehow defying science and nature, like the absurd mental illness of the homosexuals that are going to be dishonorably discharged for treason and conspiracy to murder, terrorism, and not protecting an American citizen in conformity to an oath that they took, an oath that provided them access to helicopters that they used to engage in stalking American citizens, and the wrong American citizen that they are too dumb to realize you should not stalk her anymore. She keeps getting it on video. That's the homosexuals that are stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library. The demon is stalking at the C Street Turn Circle. Remember the fake Sons remaining over the Upland Public Library? That's a stalker. They're doing the exact same thing in a crime scene where 8 hours from now the fake Son is still here and they're pacing. This is the mentally ill that are going to be subject to martial law. And as I return to this venue, OVITT Family Community Library, and a whole crime scene is remaining at a multitude of different places, including in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens, including while I am remaining at Upland Public Library, including while I am on Euclid Avenue, on San Antonio Avenue, in Upland, walking to this venue. The entity has a fake Sun, including while I'm here, and it is rising. That is what is relevant behind a gang stalking law school that's not going to remain accredited, that cannot prepare anyone to sit for a California bar. You will not. You will not be remaining in office. Gang stalking mayors are being federally prosecuted. Take a look at the playlist regarding the prosecution of the city of Ontario, the gang stalking city hall, which is under a fake Sun. This is the P.O.C. where the people of the state are serving to prosecute the mayor, serving to disband the police, serving to prosecute and remove gang stalking fire departments, and have committed and prosecuted gang stalking EMTs like what AMR represents. And this is the corporate entity that's gang stalking. The entity stalks by helicopter as I embarrass these demons and document. So you will follow the evidence. I leave Woodside Senior Apartments, so does the fake Sun. They're all gang stalking. The evidence is already surrounding them. I embarrass a tacky, dirt-covered minion, and I laugh at him. The entity starts sounding in helicopter as I capture the entity stalking as a whole psychopathic endeavor from one place to another with this environment. It would never be here if that were the sunrise here in the morning in the first place. So because you are mentally ill, you are stalking in a helicopter, and I get that on video as well. This is why David Siegler is going to federal prison. This is what you need to understand. This is going to what Michael Lowe is going to federal prison for. That was a kidnapping that he committed on July 14th, 2026. And you're going to prison for it, sir. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 5:17 p.m. at OVITT Family Community Library, where all these employees at this venue, this is why you're prosecuted regardless of business hours, because you are engaging the P.O.C. with the people of the state, including while it's open, and the demon-possessed employees are engaging in state surveillance. They're going to prison. P.O.C. Alrighty, that is at OVITT Family Community Library at the Page 1 Cafe end under the, I took a picture of the 5:43 p.m. fake Sun, okay, where the entity is maintaining this fake Sun at the sunrise, and it is here at the OVITT Family Community Library where it did not start there. Remember when I leave from Woodside Senior Apartments, what did I document in 2025 at Woodside Senior Apartments where David Siegler committed kidnapping as an entity? a domestic terrorist that is engaged in targeting, state targeting, and conspiracy with the government by working in the medical field at a gang stalking facility such as Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, where they conduct kidnappings with the military that is stalking me in commercial planes, which you hear now under a fake sun that is also documented at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, the two which are untenable with regard to any natural environment. This is showing targeting by the entity in its totality. Nonetheless, this is where an entity is engaging in this. What you are mindful of is the demon that's in the Ontario police vehicle. That vehicle number, again, that I documented, and that license plate that I captured, which is evidence of a police department and that police officer engaging in that which is not, under any circumstances, provided any immunity or protected under the law. It is criminal activity of a highly malicious nature. It is terrorism, domestic terrorism, and those that are engaging in those positions, engaging in that criminal activity, which I have proven and I unilaterally documented, they're going to federal prison for it. All right, they're not getting any slap on the wrist for it either. This is what is relevant while the entity engaged in, as I am at the OVITT Family Community Library, in a very quick series of events, very short amount of time. Stalking by helicopter, stalking by plane, Delta Airlines. You see the entity engaged in the psychopathic pacing. These fools are doing so during the sunrise. These demons are engaged in what is incriminating activity for the rest of the entity that's going to prison. You're talking about what is the Paul Leon under, what is over the city hall at 7 in the morning? What is Sectran gang stalking with a gun on its waist, picking up monies at this city hall? And what is environment are they engaging in that? And that's called public corruption. That's called conspicuous surveillance. That's called malicious criminal activity, which is never establishing mental illness of any targeted individual who is in fact being targeted and has the wherewithal, the presence of mind, the giftedness, the ability, the skill set to document it and prove it. It is the exact opposite of what David Siegler, Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, San Antonio Regional Hospital, Tracy Banks, Jason Fields, Eric Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, Ariana Elena Lopez, Shanita Ramaya McClain, and any other fool that stepped in a courtroom and you defame my character. Ruth Hooper, these ragged, ashy demons, these no-singing gang stalkers, these fake Christians that I'm showing you are engaging in the pattern of conduct. They also engage in perjury. You stepped in court. I'm prosecuting you now. You are going to federal prison. And this is that criminal activity. While the demons lack any self-control and are stalking in planes and helicopters, it's directly relevant. It's directly probative regarding why they are perjuring, why they are stalking, and they are. This is not any sort of controversy, and it's also not a product of anyone's paranoia or hallucinate. The only ones that are hallucinating are the homosexuals that think anybody thinks anything other than you going to be under 23-hour lockdown is what's going to result from you stalking me in planes and helicopters. You're the one that's hallucinating. And you will forever regret ever tarnishing my name because you want to steal my money. All right, this brokey that's engaged in what is marrying Jason Isaac Fields and his lesbian wife, both of them, all of them are homosexuals and demons that are engaged in targeting me. And as I'm referring to what is a fact, they are demon possessed. But for your information, this is a reference to their behavioral health issues that are presented, which is the national security threat, because these demons who are mentally ill have impulses that threaten American citizens. They threaten other people. They have an impulse that they cannot control, as I've documented the P.O.C. They cannot control themselves from wanting to steal, from wanting to kill you, from wanting to target you, from wanting to frame you, from wanting to use whatever they have at their disposal, from wanting to engage in sick things such as what they call witchcraft, while you and I would refer to it as nothing other than a reckless lifestyle, having group orgies and doing so while you are passing around HIV. But they call that witchcraft. That's what's going to have you committed as well, as you're stalking me and lying on my character, and you thought gossip was going to supersede an intellectual pattern of conduct proving that you are a criminal. And that's because you're mentally ill, in fact. You're a bunch of dummies, and you should have been quiet a very long time ago. The reason why I let you talk, the reason why Christ Jesus let you run your mouth, is because the arsenal is in what is the highly probative evidence that speaks for itself. And every word that you've been uttering for years, it's speaking to years that you're going to be locked up because you're not getting out, and that's where you're going to expire in a cell. Okay, you didn't just steal from me. You engaged in criminally defaming my character while you are stalking like this. This pattern of conduct is because you have plotted my murder. This is why you've already collected on insurance policies when I never died. Moreover, did I not only not die, you have no business having any insurance policy on me. Many of you have insurance policies on me, and I don't even know your name while you keeping my vagina under surveillance. You know you're going to prison, right? You're going to prison. You're a bunch of sex offenders. You're a bunch of stalkers. And it's an organized system by the government. It's state action. That's what's so profound about the pattern of conduct. It's beyond the gang stalkers that are collecting welfare at Woodside Senior Apartments. It's a whole government system. And that's what's relevant behind David Siegler harassing me and trying to trigger me while you are kidnapping me, which is not mental illness, and no American citizen is mentally ill were you to react regarding what a psychopath is exposing you to. David Siegler is an undiagnosed psychopath, and he is a prosecuted and exposed sex offender. He's a demon, and he's going to serve time in prison for what he committed. It's terrorism, not just the fraudulent practice of medicine. And it is under what is the entirely corrupt and invalid and unconstitutional Baker Act. This is the P.O.C. It's 5:49 p.m. under this fake sun, and the entities engage in this while they are out of tools, okay? And what I've shown is that it's never a tool. It's never intelligent. That's not a plan or a strategy to engage in gang stalking. It's blatant criminal activity by the incapable, the incompetent, those who can't, so they steal, those who can't, so they lie. Okay, so those who can't, so they defraud. This is what an entity does, and criminal activity is never going to result in or transform or convert or translate into your legitimate practice of law, medicine, law enforcement, any sort of jurisdiction, and any aspect of the government, including gang stalking, will not provide you any warrant, and the government's not interested in that. The government engaged in what is targeting and is fully delusional with regard to engaging in what is criminal activity, which is criminal activity when you are targeting and then you assert that you have a warrant, when that warrant is the product of your criminal activity, and that warrant is claimed by a criminal. This is the entity system, and the absurdity is what is requiring what is prison for terrorists. You're going to prison. All right, this is the P.O.C. That's what's relevant behind what I'm documenting right now. So this filthy little bum that's gang stalking at OVITT Family Community Lab, you see dirt all over his shirt. You see it looks like he's probably drunk. It looks like he's got nothing to live for. This is in any, understand that that's the government. That's the government. That's a state actor. Yes, that is a bum, and very much very unenthused about its pathetic existence. It's stalking me, and it's doing so. It's humiliated while it's stalking me because these demons know that I know what they're doing, and they're also desperate. And it's pathetic. They're suicidal. But understand that that is not just that bum that you see in my lens, which is criminal activity of a whole government. That is the government, gang stalking. The government relies on them to be present. Stalking at the C Street turn circle, stalking on the roads and the highways, stalking as business establishments, stalking as departments. Oh, this is the entity that's engaging in what is an entire corrupt system, and that system is being prosecuted, and they're being subject to martial law. A population of the mentally ill are a threat to national security. This is also referred to as what is levying war under the Constitution. This is the P.O.C. As I stated on my X feed, and I shared it to Threads, I shared it to Instagram, I shared it to Facebook. Jason Isaac Fields, there is no voodoo, no spell work. There is no judgment in my favor. There is no lump sum. There is no any sort of apology video on YouTube that's going to work in his favor to unblock this demon. There is no such thing as engaging in what is targeting someone and then trying to force them to accept you back into their life. I remain what is in control, and I always have been in control. You were not in control of your own faculties, by the way, but you are the one that is remaining on the outside with Jezebel and all the hackling homosexuals that you were having ritual sex with. This is an entity, and this is not being mean. This is the truth. This is what Jason Isaac Fields engaged in. This is what he partook in. This is what he did to an innocent person. You need to recall, and you need to think and consider those that who have suffered and they're not able to speak for themselves. Jason Isaac Fields disgusts me while he's just thinking about his genitalia, sex that's never going to happen with me. And by the way, when you lay down with any man, you lay down with any relative, you lay down with any demon that wants to be me, Jezebel, who is a cockroach. Okay, Jezebel, who has critters, vermin crawling out of her genitalia, you will never have anything to do with me. And that's the truth. And you are what you lay down with. That's why you were with Jezebel. And you are staying right where you've been at for years. Get out of my energy, stalking in the spirit where you are not provided any entrance and you're not welcome. It's not getting you any sort of unblocked status either. It's pathetic, and your desperation is confirmation to you that you are blocked and it's not happening and it's not meant to happen. It will not happen. The entities engaged in this. You sat around and you watched infectious diseases being injected into my body and you think that there will be a conversation. because you are mentally ill. I don't have to stress this enough, and there is no reasoning with the demon. You are literally a lower being. This is never going to happen, and this is relevant to what Jason Isaac Fields is liable for. This is someone who is, he hates himself, and that's not my problem either. But this is someone that is under no circumstances having any sort of entrance into my life. And that goes for any gang stalker. And if Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer have no passage, and they have no passage, it is really arrogant and audacious for you to think that you're not even a speck on the board. Okay? This is much more important people and relevant, and they're entirely irrelevant now. What do you think you are? You're less relevant than that which is flushing down the toilet. And I can't be any more explicit because you keep monitoring me, and it's called harassment and psychological torture. No demon is getting access. It's not going to happen. I've embarrassed you, and I embarrassed you for a reason. You come around me, it's federal charges, period. I'm sleeping outside, and you're going to live with that for the rest of your life. I don't care about, it's irrelevant. I'm still outside. And you were humping on boys while I was sleeping outside. What future do you think is coming from that? One where you are permanently blocked, period. Period. It's P.O.C. It's 5:55 p.m. This is what you will see as I am making that abundantly clear on my X feed. This is an entity that's delusional. Jason Isaac Fields is a monitoring spirit. And that's a monitoring spirit which is hostile to the Holy Spirit. That's no friend of mine. And I am not Jesus, and this is no missionary dating that's going on. I'm not saving anyone. All right? This is somebody, if you're not ready, honey, that's called being unequally yoked. And I don't even want you. Let alone, so you're not even getting past that gate, let alone being equally yoked. It's never going to happen. That's why you laid down with vermin like Jezebel. That's why you have a satanic cord attached to you. That's why you're tormented and you're monitoring me, and you're not going to be able to do that. This is why it's necessary for the world to witness your rejection. You come around me, it's a criminal offense, and you are engaging in that which is entirely unwelcome. That's what rapists do. You need to start turning your life around and stop engaging in that which you don't want likened to your name. You don't want to be likened to one that forces themselves upon women or men, whatever your fancy is, then leave them alone if they don't want to be bothered by you. Nobody cares about your crying. Go cry into your pillow. Go cry to whoever it is that you've been crying to. When I was sleeping outside, I wasn't crying to nobody else. I wasn't crying when you told me no and you were laughing. You're supposed to be a man. This is pathetic. Get out of my energy. And this is somebody that is an entire enemy with regard to what is gang stalking me. Okay? This is the P.O.C. If you were a hero, I wouldn't have been outside on year 8. You wouldn't have been sitting around watching while people were putting needles in my feet. You're not coming back from that. Best of luck to you. P.O.C. Southwest Airlines at 6 p.m. Southwest Airlines is engaged in federal stalking, and Southwest Airlines is engaged in federal stalking and furtherance of murder, doing so while the military is flying a Southwest Airlines plane miles away from the airport where Terminal 4 has nothing. A takeoff from Terminal 4 is not that which I'm documenting, while Southwest Airlines, you can hear, is hovering while the fake sun is over me at the Ontario Senior Center OVITT Family Community Library. Southwest Airlines is captured doing this in the morning and into the sunset as well. Southwest Airlines is doing so pursuant to what is criminal obstruction of justice. That is while I seek to produce or create the podcast. Southwest, the demons, the homosexuals of the military, stalkers like Jason Fields, literally engage in more stalking. Oh, let's do another plane. Let's fly in circles by helicopter so she'll stop publishing the podcast. This is the mentally ill that are going to be put in straitjackets. And that's not an exaggeration. They are in need of what is medical examinations, which is the purpose of this prosecution, of this documentation. Southwest Airlines is also a company that is under no circumstances in any position to further exist as a corporation, as a company, because of the mental illness that is attributed to a corporation that is engaged in what is a threat to the public. And that is therefore a shutdown of any company. You're talking about where you are supporting that with documentation of this nature. And Southwest Airlines has long passed that threshold. This is the entity that's gang stalking under the fake sun at 6:01 p.m. This is what an entity is doing, psychopathic pacing over and over and over again while I publish the podcast. It's mentally ill behavior. This is P.O.C. at OVITT Family Community Library. I'm fine. I would actually, I was just looking at this apple crumb frosty fusion. What is that?
It's like a frosty, like with apple pie, kind of
Oh, like an apple pie type of
frosty.
smoothie or something? Like
Frosty.
milkshake? Frosty? Okay. Okay. Can I try the, actually, I'm just gonna get a chicken sandwich, the crispy chicken sandwich with nothing on it. No
No
mayonnaise.
lettuce.
Oh, you can do the lettuce. I just don't want any mayonnaise or anything on it.
Okay.
That'll be it actually. And can I get a cup of ice with that? Just ice? That'll be all.
Total $3.80.
I thought you said 12. So what did I order?
And then your name is order?
Oh, my name's Erica. What's your name?
Amir.
Hi, Amir. Let's see. You must be new. I haven't seen you before.
I'm from a different store.
Oh, exciting. I'm gonna pay with
Yes. Yeah, I'm from a different store, so this is like not my normal store that I go to. Here you go, and then your tip for me. Here you go.
Thank you.
Let me get that cup of ice.
Thank you. All right, I did capture the group stalker. This is an employee that's group stalking. Remember, employees, you corporate entities are being read your rights. So the government that you are targeting with does not have authority here. You are being read your rights, and this is not a joke. Thank you. Your employees are systematically engaging in terrorism, and systematic facilitation is a basis of federal prison. It's also a basis of federal prison as a matter of justice, since you are sharing and gang stalking with all of the customers and the government that's also engaging what is targeting. As you are maliciously targeting as a employee at that venue, you are going to prison, gang stalking employees. And they're also going to prison as a matter of law because of poisoning that I've been subject to at this particular venue. You're going to federal prison with regard to the general service of food products while you're engaging in gang stalking. This isn't the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct. Amir's image is captured, and the entity is engaged in what is maintaining surveillance outside of the bathroom. Amir's engaged in vagina monitoring, and he's doing so with the gang stalkers at AutoZone. You'll see them stalking with light. They are engaged in targeting me, engaged in criminal monitoring. That's the mentally ill behavior of the demon-possessed that are gang stalking. And stalking is a criminal act. It's terrorism while a population is stalking. It's terrorism while a population is stalking you with light and noise because they are monitoring. And they do things like monitor your genitalia on a ceaseless basis regardless of your age as well. The entities engage in this while they are acting in furtherance of murder. So employment at a facilitating venue is systematic facilitation. You're going to prison for that. You're not engaging in what is passing through the state of California on your way to Vegas and gang stalking the target individual while you're going through the Ontario Mills Mall and you're documented. It's terrorism regardless, but when you are working at the mall where the target individual works and you are engaging in that, working with the target individual, working where the target individual is shopping, present, documenting you. The target individual doesn't even have to go into the store where you work, by the way. You are being documented while the Ontario Mills is being captured engaging the P.O.C. You are at risk for federal prison. You need to understand this because this is what the people of the state don't understand. Thank you. This is what the people of the state don't understand while they're engaging in this conduct together as a mentally ill entity. Thank you. You have napkins? Okay. So the entity is engaging in the entity as a corporate entity, and I've outlined that for you, showing you on social media so that the world can understand how you are being prosecuted based on the criminal system that you never thought was ever capable of being proven, or let alone in any sort of intelligent manner to be proven with tangible evidence to prosecute you. And all of that is also a myth, like your sanity. That's a myth. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct as a government system en route to Wendy's, which is also serving to prosecute you when I'm at Wendy's. Okay, the entities engaged in criminal summoning. The demons are stalking in the sky space, amplified plane activity over my head. The entity are stalking with sirens. That's the Ontario Fire Department that is engaging in what is criminal summoning and furtherance of murder. Not engaged in firefighting, not engaged in anything authorized under the Constitution. They're not engaged in anything sane either. This is terrorism while they are engaging in that, while the people of the state are stalking, maintaining a perimeter of light activity at John Stewart apartment complex, crossing my path as I'm moving. So this is a demon that is, again, in order to cross my path, simultaneously entering into the parking garage of John Stewart Company apartments, where you saw UPS and Southwest Airlines, the gang stalking airlines that are engaging in what is flying and hovering over that apartment building. The people of the state are using that building, living there, maintaining presence in any manner there, and including by a gang stalking by entering into the parking garage while you are stalking with light. This is what the entity is doing while they begin sounding sirens as I began moving from the library to Wendy's, where Amir is already prosecuted before I even have to say a word. Okay, the entity is engaged in targeting me with light inside, that's serving to prosecute. And I want to be clear, the demons that are outside that are stalking me with impossible light activity are presenting evidence regarding mental illness of Amir. This is gang violence, and so you are being diagnosed regarding your shared mental illness as you share a pattern of conduct. This is how corporate entities are being prosecuted. You are being read your rights regarding that which the government maintains no authority to protect you from. You are engaging in it with the government. The government has incriminated you and exposed you as the gang stalkers that I said at the outset. You absolutely are, including while you are persons under the law, corporate entities that are a legal fiction that shall maintain that personhood under the law in order for me to prosecute you. Alrighty, it is currently 8:25 p.m. and I am at Wendy's, and the entities engaging in this pattern of conduct while they are monitoring me, obsessing over me while I eat, monitoring how many times I chew, monitoring my heartbeat, monitoring me as I'm sitting at the table, and engineer light covers the table. My one hand has 6 shadows, so I'm already being targeted inside while a bunch of psychopaths are stalking all around, going in circles. That's what's going on in their mind while they're stalking me with light, and they are all demons. The demon possessed are not only not hidden anymore amongst us, they are being federally prosecuted while they are posing and masquerading as humans. They're going to be treated and given a constitutional right of their day in court, but everybody knows what you are, and you're going to be committed where creatures like you belong. Under the law, all right? This is P.O.C. It's currently 8:26 p.m. Alrighty, this is Stalking, Exhibit A, at Stereo City that is closed. This is maintaining presence in the path, and this is absolutely criminal, all right? This is also very mentally ill. It's called stalking with light. And this is someone that is indeed stalking and is in the path doing so on behalf of the military. I want you to see that right there, that star next to the light. That's not a star, that's the military. And this is Ontario Town Square Townhomes, where the entity is stalking me as a matter of evidence by helicopter and by commercial planes. The people of the state whose license plate, I documented this one back here. I documented their license plates already. They got in their vehicles to maintain light activity at the... This is psychopathic pacing. Union is the demonic guise of audible noise. The entities engage in this while they are engaged in what is stalking with light in the path, okay? Now, when you touch me with that, that's a sex offense. This is a predator that's waiting to engage, and this is one that's engaging in that in the specific environment. So let me show you. Here's my shadow in front of me. Here's my shadow behind me. And this is in furtherance of murder. The military, the U.S. government's hiring the people of the state that are conspiring in your murder. And this is what David Sigler is engaging in what is gang stalking with the people of the state while they're engaged in what is defaming your character. That's license plate 9YDA195. They're going to be committed. 8JSD005. There's no Stereo City that's open, and that's why you corporate entities are being prosecuted regardless of your business hours. This is why, okay? This is what the people of the state are doing. This is what you are doing when your employees are in the venue while the military and the government is using the pattern of conduct regardless of hours Stereo City is here to maintain surveillance. The people of the state are engaging in criminal surveillance as a matter of a pattern of conduct throughout California. None of that is headlights. You're looking at a demon that's operating a vehicle, maintaining flashing light in the parking lot, a relevant position, where the entity's maintaining train activity, where I've already documented the fake sunrise and set. That's B&G Plaza. This is Hope Boulevard. This is Sultana, the entity that's engaging in, that's Ontario Town Square Townhomes. That's GL Partners that's being prosecuted while they are engaging in that P.O.C. together. This is the handiwork of the government, okay? That's the P.O.C. That's a male. That's a mentally ill. That's a stalker. That's a vagina monitor, a sex offender. HJSD005. There's my shadow under the car. You see that? Impossible light activity. You see his shadows in front and behind? They're stalking together. That communication device, you're going to be federally prosecuted for that. He's going to be federally prosecuted. The people of the state are being federally prosecuted. This population is going to be subject to martial law. You do not, under any circumstances, nor does the government have any warrant or probable cause to monitor. This is pursuant to federal stalking. That demon is stalking, monitoring my device, monitoring on his device, monitoring with a whole bunch of stalkers on the roads and the highways that are losing licensure in California. You don't have a privilege to drive in the state of California to engage in conspiring someone's murder. This is the P.O.C. and this is what Amir is doing inside of Wendy's, gang stalking me. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 8:40 p.m. License 1627718, vehicle 1034, stalking in the specific environment. Here is my shadow here. And here's another that's lined up over here. And here's another shadow that's reaching across the grass over here. Ontario police are the co-defendants of the demons, the psychopaths that are stalking with light. It's the same mental illness of the Ontario police and the military, and the people of the state are going to be subject to martial law for engaging in the warrantless and unlawful criminal activity. That, I want to be clear, medical professionals like David Siegler, Sharon, while you're gang stalking like the Ontario police, you're not committing anybody. You're not diagnosing anything. In fact, you're going to be diagnosed with severe mental instability. UPS has no takeoff at Sultana and Holt. That's not a takeoff. And they're also deviating from what is flying over what is the OVITT Family Community Library. And as you saw them on G Street and Palm gang stalking me, G Street and Laurel, they're over here much more south, flying over Hope Boulevard. And they're doing so because they're triggered by that embarrassing body of evidence that's going to be used to prosecute the mentally ill population who are demon stalking with light, monitoring, federal stalking. And they're mad because it makes sense as I prosecute them. And you're witnessing me discern demons that are flying in UPS planes, driving Ontario police vehicles, and engaging in what is stalking in the path, which is what the military is doing with the demons that are stalking and planes and helicopters. That's the military. That's not a star. All right, that's engaging what is surveillance. These are psychos, and the entity keeps a whole environment. This is what the fake sun is about. That demon that engaged in that, this is what they like to do. You're playing with yourself. Like you little masturbating homosexuals, the Ontario police are being stripped down. You're going to prison because everybody knows you're monitoring my vagina. You're not engaged in law enforcement, and you don't have any authority while you're stalking me where I sleep at night. Engaging in what is keeping my vagina under surveillance in concert with a bunch of psychopaths that are out here flashing and pacing around me with light while you share that mental illness. You're going to prison. That's another one. Him and his partner are going to be put on X, stalking on Euclid Avenue. You'll see the video and you're going to look at what is Google Maps because you're going to see the fake sun in the morning, fake sun in the evening, where those gang stalkers, those are thugs who are homosexuals, who are engaging in what is failed witchcraft, which is going to have them committed. Keep stalking me, you're going to wind up in a mental institution. This is the P.O.C. It's 8:44 p.m. That's terrorism, psychological torture, and Ontario Fire Department is right here gang stalking with them. It's called relevant positioning. All right, that's the P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently 8:45 p.m. And again, let me just go ahead over some evidence really quick again, because I want to stress something about what this terrorist just committed. It's the template, because every police department, every sheriff's department, every license plate, everyone that I captured, I caught them stalking me. I have it in as a matter of tangible evidence. And everyone that is engaged in the crime of stalking, while you're out here masquerading as a police officer, and you are not, and I've already proven that part of the case, you're going to prison, while you're looking at what is a department engaging what is failing at threatening both the federal prosecutor and the targeted individual, who is the same person. And you're going to be subject to mental examinations for what is your documented mental illness while you engage in an effort for psychological torture, which only the mentally ill engage in, while you are stalking and you're supposed to be engaging in law enforcement, and you want that to be the image so that you can get away with murder and kidnapping and criminal defamation, which is also not a unsupported theory. It is proven by what the Ontario Police Department have already committed. All right, and this is the entity that's engaged in that. Now, this state actor that I documented, he is going to prison. This is two that I documented today, and it's the department that is going to be disbanded. License 1627718, vehicle 1034, stalking in the specific environment. Alrighty, that state actor is going to federal prison. It's a white male. At least he appears to be Caucasian. I took images, a series of images, and then I immediately went into video. I want to break down the entity's mentally ill pattern. They engage in what is Title 18 federal stalking for the purpose of the unlawful and unwarranted, meaning they don't have any warrant or probable cause. It doesn't exist to engage in gang stalking. That doesn't exist. The government not only doesn't have authority to engage in ceaseless surveillance, the government doesn't have any authority, doesn't exist, it's not a legitimate interest under the Constitution to engage in that, moreover, with a population, which is what the demon-possessed are doing. The entity is engaging in this. Let me go ahead and get this third-party license. 7GMR561, stalking with light at what is Metro 102 Apartments and Ontario Town Square Townhomes. That is MIG Real Estate and also GL Partners. You're being prosecuted. The people of the state are gang stalking, and you are gang stalking. While the people of the state that are residing there at the venues, they are occupying the venues. They're in relevant position to the presence of those establishments where you are maintaining an establishment for criminal surveillance. That's why the fake sun. That's why the entity is stalking and flying over outside of the operations of an airport legitimately, over the apartment complex, helicopter activity outside of quiet enjoyment, contractual rights, all manner of the absurdity of the pattern of conduct that includes these apartment complexes. These property management companies are fully engaged in it, and I'm prosecuting you while the people of the state are in relevant position monitoring with that entity. That is stalking with light. This is the entity that's engaged in that. The Ontario Police are engaged in that pattern of conduct, and the mentally ill pattern is that while they are engaged in federal stalking, which is that which is occurring by the government without any warrant, without any probable cause, and without any legitimate interest under the state and federal constitutions, it is moreover committed in furtherance of things such as murder and kidnapping, while the government is engaging in what is abuse of authority. So they operate, in other words, as a legitimate court, as a legitimate police department, as a legitimate sheriff's department would when they're entirely illegitimate gang stalking, okay? But the entity is maliciously targeting, and the government is engaging in what is bullying someone that they know no one is typically going to understand, especially when you do not have an organized body of evidence to prove your allegations about what is a psychopathic and sexually perverted and satanic pattern of conduct that those over and under majority are sharing in. Okay, the entity is engaging in that conduct, and they're doing so while they are also engaged in federal stalking, meaning they engage in what is federal stalking. When the entity is stalking me by helicopter, they're engaged in federal stalking. Understand that. I'm not just prosecuting because a psychopath literally climbed into a helicopter and went and looking for, well, not look, because they're not looking for me. They know where I'm at. They decided I'm going to go fly over her head and follow and fly in circles, and we're going to amplify the sound. That's the stalking. That's the psychological torture. It's beyond that. They're engaging in federal stalking while they are engaging in stalking in planes, stalking in helicopters, maintaining the fake sun. These are all the ways in which the entity is engaging in the elements of monitoring. Light activity is maintained. Audible activities maintained, where you are stalking me in order to do so. And the proof that a whole bunch of so-called strangers are all connected and they're all stalking together is the evidence of a fake sun, such as remaining over the Upland Public Library for 9 hours, but then when I don't go to Upland, California, it remains over an apartment complex. And the sun would never do either, let alone both at the same time. And that's how you know that it is a connected pattern of conduct of stalkers. Unfathomable state action, but nonetheless state action. And the government engages in targeting while they are aware of the fact, maliciously, in other words, targeting American citizens that are ill-equipped to contend with that means of terrorizing them. Meaning they engage in conduct that is so psychotic, that is so mentally deranged, so unhinged, That's how they are engaging in what is criminal defamation. And this is as a matter of justice and based on 100% truth. The entity that shall be police officers being committed, sheriffs, deputies, and county sheriffs, and you have police chiefs and EMTs and doctors and nurses. You have what are directors of behavioral health, etc., being committed based on their mental illness that is proven while they seek to criminally defame the one whom they're targeting. Bullying, targeting because they anticipate, and it is reasonably anticipated, that an American citizen is not going to be able to contend with the government that is targeting them. That's why the government is doing it. This is not that which an American citizen, the ordinary target individual, is supposed to survive, let alone be able to explain, maintain their self-control and composure in order to do so. This is an entity that's very much engaged in torturing you in order to cause a psychological breakdown. And then they use that illusion based on torture that they've been engaged in to state that you're mentally ill. All right, and that's the entity that's engaged in that. That is not mental illness, and it's also not the practice of medicine. And those that are engaging in that, such as criminals like David Siegler, kidnapping. And he is directly engaged in kidnapping because he is stalking with light at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. He is stalking in the path at State Facilitating Venue, Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, which is already proven, as I maintain documentation of the fake sun, where it's remaining in Upland, California from morning until evening. It would never, during the 6 p.m. hour, at any minute during that hour or any other time during the day, be outside of any window, be anywhere in Colton for me to see it outside of the window of Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, like I documented in 2022. And that evidence remains on the record, and it's never expiring, and it never becomes irrelevant. This is an entity that's engaging in that, and same time of your analysis remains. The entity is gang stalking me on Euclid Avenue as I'm leaving Upland Public Library, as I'm leaving OVITT Family Community Library, and the entity is keeping a fake sun all day long in Ontario. When is it going to be at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center but for when I am being kidnapped there? And the entity keeps that whole crime scene so that you know that David Siegler is a vagina monitoring psychopath that went into the practice of medicine to target and kidnap and murder and criminally defame under things such as the Baker Act, which is entirely illegitimate based on the government that's maintaining criminal surveillance that it has never exposed that it is engaging in. The Baker Act is already invalid by virtue of surveillance that the government has never spoken to that it is maintaining criminally. All right. Moreover, David Siegler and the like are manufacturing, engineering information, making it up, and then calling it what is satisfying the elements for mental illness, grave disability, or some sort of addiction under the Welfare and Institutions Code. And it is not that at all. In fact, they, in my case, totally made up information. Alternative facts is what the Trump administration refers to that. That's what liars call. That's called a liar. They made up information, which you would have to. I've been maintaining this investigation the entire time while you were in the background lying. And remember, the government that's in the background is the government that's maintaining court hearings about me in my absence. The government that says that there was a court hearing and this is the minute order and these are the orders that were rendered, and this is the decision of the court, and who is typically going to question that? The government's engaging in what is stalking and monitoring and targeting, stealing, in other words, under the Baker Act by just calling you mentally ill and bringing in a gang stalker like David Siegler to put their stamp of approval on it, and it's entirely corrupt. Now, this is something that is necessarily supported with evidence, but that is a succinct iteration of exactly what this entity is doing. And that's why you have what is the Ontario Police who are monitoring. They're stalkers, not law enforcement officers, and they have no authority under the law, and they operate as though they do. You understand you're going to be committed with that. While on Monday, you are engaging in that and flashing your badge as though you have authority, while you know very well because you act like you don't, or because you in my face violate my rights, does not mean that you don't. It is already known. The world is watching. The world knows, and this is the reality. The demons, like those of the Ontario Police, are being brought up in an illusion that you have authority, an illusion that you're humans, an illusion that you're not child rapists, an illusion that you're not criminals, stalkers, and thieves. Those are all illusions that have been shattered. They are stalking me on the roads and the highways, surrounding me, while the people of the state are engaging in criminal activity with them. You see weirdos stalking me at the OVITT Family Community at 12 o'clock in the morning. You see weirdos stalking me by helicopters and commercial planes at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And the Ontario police are engaging in that pattern of conduct while those weirdos come close. And those weirdos in those uniforms also engage in the same. And they do so as though they have authority under the law. That's called malice. That's called psychopathic disorder, antisocial. Because you're operating one way and abusing your position, that's what you're actually doing. You are not changing reality. It's not happening that way. And it's not being viewed that way. And in this case, it both matters what it looks like and what it actually is, while the demons, the corrupt government, is only focused on how it looks. And if they can silence you and kidnap you and put you in a mental ward uniform and make sure that no one ever hears you and that you're just kept, regardless of violating court dates, violating court rules, if it looks like you're a patient, then you're a patient, even though it was corrupt and unlawful in the first place. That's how the Ontario police, the city of Ontario, operates. And this demon is going to prison for it. The entity is stalking in the path. As you hear helicopter activity, he's going to prison. You heard his license plate. He is indeed going to prison. And it is in conformity to a pattern by the entire Ontario Police Department. Lopez is going to federal prison. You are referred to as a terrorist leader. It's happening while you are in a position of authority. And that is the pattern of conduct that I've documented from Williams to Lorenz to now Lopez. And you are going to federal prison. This is the entity that's doing the same thing that Ontario police are doing at Sultana and Holt. This is stalking me while you are being embarrassed, and I am reading you your rights, and you are hostile and defiant to it. And you're going to be put in a cage like any other rabies-infected animal. That's what Ontario police just did in a vehicle. So what they're doing while I embarrass the demon, stalking me with light, because these demons are embarrassed while I'm prosecuting them. So this is why I have to even refer to that, because that's absurd when you're being prosecuted for criminal activity. All right, and this is literally what they're an entity that's accustomed to getting away with murdering people and stalking them, and no one can see them because they're so magical. They're none of that, and none of that is happening. They're being defunded. They're being rushed into poverty. You have a population that's going into homelessness, and that's literally because the entire apartment complex is disqualified from participating in the housing programs that they're engaging in. While they're gang stalking, you're losing that. The property management company itself is being removed from it, and everybody that's on that property is being removed from the property itself. And you're going to have a hard time because you're not going to get any more housing with this on your criminal record. But you have people that are going to be thrust into homelessness. You have a population that's going to be struck with what is suffering financially while they're engaged in this criminal system, with the entity that you just heard stalking by helicopter flying over the senior center. And the people of the state that are engaged in what is stalking in plain view. This is the entity that's engaged in that together. And this is an entity that's doing so while Ontario police, in the same manner, the same criminal purpose behind stalking by a helicopter. And this is, again, mentally ill. This is evidence of mental illness, psychopathic, delusional, deranged. Okay? You're already a criminal. You're already disturbed, engaging in trying to do this to anybody, but then you're doing it to somebody that's very good at prosecuting you and has already proven beyond a reasonable doubt that you're entirely guilty. And you're not just guilty, but you're a psychopath. You're a raving psychopath who is in need of the medical treatment of the likes of those that consume feces, wear diapers, and travel across the country and eat out of that diaper while they're engaging in what is some sort of plot in their mind that only they think is intelligent and is going to work. This is an entity that's engaging in what is stalking me and Ontario police that are monitoring me, prosecuting by evidence, documentation of you sitting in a parking lot in a closed down business in the middle of the night while the entity is maintaining what is light activity. That's what this third party is doing, stalking with the light activity. That's psychotic behavior that the people of the state who are monitoring, who are stalking me to maintain that with the entity that you just heard stalking by helicopter, that's on whose behalf they're stalking with light. And as the entity is captured and documented in that, the gang stalkers that are encouraging, facilitating that, drive up in an Ontario Police Department vehicle. And that license plate, let's listen to it again because they are going to federal prison. While the entity is engaging in stalking me by helicopter, the Ontario Police Department, every single last one of these stalkers are going to prison as I document. Vehicle 1034, and the license plate is license 1627718, vehicle. He is going to prison. He's a white male with a mustache. He's going to federal prison. And the entity's engaging in this pattern of conduct while they are monitoring the evidence. So this is a stalker that is then engaging in what is witnessing me document their criminal activity. And the criminal that's being documented is hostile to that documentation. And by conceding to the fact that you're engaging in the criminal activity, you then, in the midst of that documentation, I capture you engaging in more of it, because there are no coincidences with the heavy helicopter activity in multiple cities for a prolonged term of years, as I've been documenting, in an environment that is absurd as having multiple shadows that are laid out like a deck of cards, that are perpendicular, that are crisscross, that are upright over my head and projected in front of me and all over and in multiple hues and at different heights. That's where a population of the mentally ill who are stalking with light, who are stalking by helicopters, who are stalking as a population, as a neighborhood. Okay, that's the demon possessed. Okay, they are dressed up in meat suits as though they're humans, and we're going to keep up that act. They're going to walk into courtrooms like you're humans. You're going to be given your day in court, but everybody knows that you're demons, and you're going to be ushered into the mental facilities where you belong. You're going to be treated like the unstable creatures that you are, and that's where you belong. That's what's crawling into helicopters. That's what's engaging in what is gay sex rituals and passing around HIV to everyone, and then trying to target someone and blame that on that targeted individual who doesn't even know that you're using their name in such a ridiculously absurd and perverted manner. That's what stalking in Ontario police vehicles. Understand, Ontario police are a part of that pattern of conduct of defaming me and then also stalking me as a law enforcement agency. That is the license to kill. That's what that is. That demon's going to prison, and the entity is doing so with the intent to psychologically torture and threaten and harass me because I'm prosecuting them. I am prosecuting through documentation, and this is all going back to who you heard inside of the Wendy's. Amir is indeed gang stalking. Okay, this is an entity that's engaging in that. Amir is not by himself. Everybody in that Wendy's restaurant is gang stalking. And the entity is engaging in this P.O.C. with regard to what is ongoing evidence that of them stalking and monitoring. Remember, it's not just stalking. Stalking is what you are engaging in while you're monitoring. You have to be following me around everywhere in order to monitor. It is federal group stalking and monitoring. You are stalking while you are living at a facilitating venue, meaning at the Wendy's restaurant where the fake sun is present for hours in, as I've documented, and the fake moon, and where the government is stalking by helicopters and planes like what you just heard now. You are stalking at your job, honey, and you are going to prison for what is systematic facilitation like I just broke down. And this is why. This is how you corporate entities are understanding you're being read your rights. The government that you see and are listening to me prosecute have provided evidence against you. You are engaging in that pattern of conduct, and I have already established that you are not ignorantly engaging in that, but anticipating what is a legally irrelevant and a legally short-sighted argument. You don't have an argument and you don't have a defense. You are under any circumstances facilitating what the government is proven to already be engaging and failing in, which is murdering me. This is why they're stalking and monitoring, to murder me. And it's an entire system that the entire state of California is engaging in. That's why, by the way, you don't have a defense, because the fake sun over the establishment is prosecuting you in your silence, or you can boo-hoo, scream, and wail in court. You're going to be made to comply with the court, and you are still going to be prosecuted. Okay, and the entities engaging in this, while they are obsessively gang stalking now, they are still pacing at the Civic Center right now. This same population that's going to be crying about living outside, and not because they've been targeted, but because they targeted the federal prosecutor, who are the same person for a reason. Okay, the entity engages in what is stalking in this ongoing obsessive manner, and then they're also going to be crying about being homeless. No one is going to be crying for the gang stalking population who's going to be facing poverty and homelessness, deportation, loss of custody of children, who are still stalking, still monitoring. You want to be homeless. You want to be outside. You want to lose custody of your children. You want to be subject to what is being committed and diagnosed as mentally ill. You want to be prosecuted as a terrorist. You want that on your criminal record. You literally want that. That's exactly what you have manifested. And there is no going back on that. But this is evidence showing this is far beyond a conviction. The geniuses just engaged in stalking by helicopter. Do you think that that is separate from what Ontario police are doing at Sultana and Holt? The answer is no. And the reasonable answer is no, absolutely not. The people of the state are engaging in mentally ill behavior, sitting in the middle of a vacant parking lot with their hazard lights on, and that's an entity that is not free to do so. All right, you are also not free to arrive at work and work for the corporation while you are simultaneously engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring for which you do not have a defense. The fact that you're stating, I don't know the target individual and I'm at work, is your admission to engaging in the pattern of conduct. You are being federally prosecuted for the P.O.C., which the people of the state have shown they are fully engaged in and unapologetically engaged in with a unlawful level of impunity and malice. This is why this entity not only is gang stalking, but they've engaged in what is criminal defamation and kidnapping. You're not innocently engaging in the pattern of conduct when you're claiming that now I'm molesting kids. When did that happen? While you're gang stalking, you've already established who you are as a population, and yes, the entire population that is under the fake sun is sharing a means of being identified and sharing what is the ability to categorically assess your mental instability. This is your pattern of conduct. You did it to yourself. You exposed your own hand. This is an entity that's engaging in that, and they have told you all about themselves, and you need to understand that it is Satan, the spirit of Satan, the inferior spirit of Satan that Christ has already conquered. This is an entity that's engaged in that, and they're so conquered and triggered by being conquered, they keep giving me evidence, such as what you just heard, stalking by helicopter. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in that, and that's what I want to go into. The demon that is stalking in the Ontario Police vehicle at Sultana and Hope Boulevard, that is a completed criminal act. The criminal act is not just the act of stalking. Remember, the targeted individual's experience. The Constitution is designed to protect the dignity, the physical safety, the well-being, all right, of the target individual, the liberty rights of the target individual. You are stalking in order to get away with murdering that target individual, in order to get away with kidnapping that target individual, which you are asserting are your engagement in the execution of the duties of an officer, the absurdity of the malice within that P.O.C. That's why you are absolutely going to prison. The level of malice is just, it's astronomical. You're going to prison for that. Mandated prison. No negotiation. You are going to federal prison. This is an entity that's engaging in this P.O.C. against a target individual that does not have a microphone, does not have the ability to speak to what it is that they're subject to. They just know that it's weird, and that's a synonym for demonic. It's abnormal. It's not human. That's the population of demons that are gang stalking, and they make up police departments like Ontario Police. They make up the military, like the Air Force, the Marines, the Army, that are gang stalking me. Okay, using Southwest Airlines and UPS planes and the airline industry to engage in surveillance, the psychopathic conduct of those that are going to fill up mental institutions, who cannot get out of that criminal conduct by engaging and committing more of it, which any seventh grader would understand. This is the P.O.C. This is the entity that's providing evidence against itself. The demons of the Ontario Police are going to prison. I documented the other one at F Street and Euclid Avenue. They're going to prison, and I documented this one at Sultana and Holt. He is going to prison, okay? This is the P.O.C. It is currently 9:09 p.m. at the OVITT Family Community Library. Alrighty, 9:17 p.m. Ontario Police are stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library, engaging in what is crossing path with the people of the state. And a demon is right over here. This psycho's over here pacing with his phone out, stalking with Ontario Police. You'll see them walking under the side of the entrance with a Latino male with a black mustache, engaging in what is, I'm just out here securing the premises, engaging in what is stalking. And this is what Securitas does. They're not engaged in security, though. They're engaged in stalking, and they're engaged in targeting. And Ontario Police are engaged in that, and that's even more heightened threat while they are engaging in what is stalking, and doing so where they are targeting with the people who are a bunch of psychos pacing all around me with their communication devices out, a bunch of gang stalkers. Okay, this is heavy duty stalking. These are demons who are mentally ill. They are addicted to stalking me. That's how stalking is already born of obsession. These demons are addicted to stalking me. And that is the Ontario Police Department is addicted to stalking me. So this demon is engaged in what is crossing path, doing so at what is 9:18 p.m. I took a picture after he's crossing path, and he's doing so as I begin opening up my backpack. He's monitoring. He's doing so while the people of the state stalking in the path, sitting over at the bench. This is called relevant positioning. Engaging, you'll see the white dog. This is a stalker. This is surveillance. This is heavy duty stalking, kind of keeping me surrounded, never abandoning. This is what the entities engage in, and this is the mentally ill that engage in that. You need to understand this is the personification of what Satan is doing. Satan is a stalker. Satan is a psychopathic stalker that is very much engaged in any minor move that you make. Okay, not just stalking you, keeping their eyes on you, can see you walking away. Satan is the one that is breathing down your back, stalking you, but Satan is also the one that wants to do so while seeking to make you appear as though you are paranoid while that is actually the case. Okay, that's the entity that's monitoring. Okay, where the entity stalking by planes, Ontario police are engaged in monitoring. So they're admittedly engaged in that. This is where the entity at the Ontario Civic Center is stalking by the military, and Ontario police are engaged in that as I dig in my bag. Okay, so that's monitoring any not false movement, but any new movement that I make. So the moment that I unzip my bag, this demon walks right by underneath the covered structure of the OVITT Family Community Library where I showed you the fake sun this evening. This demon is engaged. Oh, I'm just strolling by because I'm a police officer and I can do that, and I'm walking around just patrolling the premises because I can do that because we are a police department, and they're engaging in what is gang stalking, which they cannot do that while they're engaging in targeting, and that's the entity that's subject to prison for that. That's malice. All right, but nonetheless, this is what the entity is engaged in. It is currently, I want to document that, it's 9:20 while the people of the state are engaged in psychopathic pacing. So this is a demon that's engaged in what is stalking and calling it law enforcement. This is the entity that's going to be committed for those things. Alrighty, that's the P.O.C. It is currently 9:20 p.m. Oh, just as an aside, I want to point this out. Ontario police started patrolling today. So they started patrolling when I started sleeping at the OVITT Family Community Library. And it is a means for the addicted, obsessed stalker and vagina monitor and psychopath to be around me, including while they harass me. This is the stalker that wants to be around me. So it is a very much life-threatening criminal act committed by the demon-possessed who are going under the name Ontario Police. But I just want to be clear, the entity is engaging in what is stalking by now patrolling in the Civic Center after dark, and they are not engaging in that until I started sleeping and paying attention to this location over here. That's a matter of evidence as well, but I want to document that because this is all going toward the disbanding and the prosecution of a terrorist leader, P.O.C. It is currently 9:22 p.m. This is where Ontario police are stalking by patrolling around the venue with the military. All right, a police department that's engaging and practicing a stalking system is one that is a threat to the public. Any military branch that's engaging in stalking as a practice instead of protecting American citizens and doing so in concert with the states is a threat to the public. There are no flights from the airport. The same analysis applies. And so what I just documented, while the Ontario police just repeated exactly what I documented, pay attention to the pattern. I embarrassed them documenting stalking with light by the people at Sultana and Holt. The entity is stalking by Ontario police in a vehicle at Sultana and Holt. I document and analyze the embarrassment of being documented as gang stalking government actors who are demons, who are psychotic as well. This is embarrassing while they as demons are being discerned simultaneously, and their closeted addiction and mental illness obsessing and stalking me is simultaneously exposed. The entity stalks by helicopter, as you witnessed by podcast. As I speak to the entity stalking with the intent to obstruct justice, meaning engage in more stalking behaviors as the evidence is captured and analyzed and shared, the entity is stalking by that same department by walking by me, crossing path at the same venue where the military are stalking. There are no flights taken off from the airport that you would even hear, but there is literally not even a flight scheduled right now. And no flights that are scheduled are hovering over the City Hall, the Ontario Senior Center, and the John Stewart Company Senior Citizen Apartment Complex, where the Ontario Police engaged in repeating that pattern. Okay? And pursuant to that ongoing psychopathic disorder, the entity repeats that mentally ill behavior, which is a judicially noticed fact that they are not taking off and that there are no takeoffs at this distance and that the entity is engaged in doing so in a specific environment. And this is where the Ontario police are stalking, where they know that I am sleeping. This is P.O.C. Those demons and the license plates of the Ontario police are all going to prison. And the Ontario police are engaged in stalking me at the Ontario Civic Center. This is why Leo's going to prison, because Leo's not a security guard either. And the Ontario police are stalking while you hear the audible activity, speaking to a psychopath that's engaged in monitoring me while I am documenting the fact that that department is stalking, that department arrives again stalking me. All right, this is the P.O.C. This is the entity that's doing so with the people of the state. What you'll see in the images that I capture, a demon. This is the entity that, again, that while you capture and prove Satan is guilty of whatever, Satan will do it again. And so what the demons did is a plane is hovering over the city hall while a demon, this is Satan as well, that's on foot, is walking in step with that plane. This appears to be an African-American male who's wearing a white shirt. He's pacing. I captured him stalking by crossing path walking east. He crosses path walking west in sync with the plane. That's a demon that's flying that plane. This is all relevant context behind stalking by the Ontario police, who go out of their way, stalking me on foot in order to come next to me, threaten. Understand, they're going to prison for that. This is why the law is exactly how it is. And this is also informing you, corporate entities who are being hereby provided notice about your criminal activity that you're being prosecuted for. You are sharing in the pattern of conduct with the government that you've been engaged in, and you are being prosecuted for it. This is the P.O.C. Any means of facilitating this, you are being federally prosecuted. It is currently 9:39 p.m. Demons, the homosexuals that are not going to have any future endeavors with me, like Jason Isaac Fields, who would engage in paying stalkers like the Ontario Police Department to threaten, harass, kidnap me, also engage in what is threatening my life by puncturing my body with needles, in the hopes that this homosexual would literally, he would actually be psychotic enough to think that I'm going to call him. That I'm going to be so desperate, oh my goodness, this must mean that I need to call Jason. I'm going to call Jason now. That's exactly what this is leading me to do. Oh my goodness, that's what I'm going to do. Jason is the one that's going to pop up in my head, and I'm going to call him because he is kidnapping me with the Ontario Police Department, because those demons are targeting me, while this homosexual with severe mental instability, I'll keep it at that, that's monitoring my vagina, is engaging what is gang stalking me in the hopes that I'm also then going to run to him and associate with him. That's why, again, people like Jason Fields are going to be committed. But this is relevant context regarding Jason Fields' criminal charges that he will be facing if he ever comes in my presence. This is the P.O.C. It's currently 9:40 p.m.